Welcome to Music Education Center's Guitar and Bass Fundamentals online course. Today we're going to take a look at the parts of the guitar and the mechanics that make it work. So join me in the lab and let's explore further. All right, so as we get started, it is important for players, especially new players, to understand the various parts of the guitar and what they do, everything on this instrument, as well as on my electric brothers back here, have a purpose. And so we're going to kind of go through the next 5-10 minutes and look at all the different parts. On the acoustic, we'll see what's the same and different with the electrics, and get you on your way. So I like to start, especially with new students, I like to start at the top. And I'm setting the guitar here like this because obviously it's going to correlate with the human body as well. We're going to start up here. This is the head or headstock of the guitar. And you'll see on here are these little tuners, and that's exactly what they are. Tuners, tuning machines, tuning knobs, all of those things are whatever you want to call them. And the purpose of those is to set your strings to the appropriate tension so that the note that you want to come out comes out. Moving on down, here I'm going to take this little guy off of here. Now we get to this section right here. This is aptly named the nut. And what that does is it actually creates, and you'll see when we start getting into mechanics, it makes a stopping point right here at the edge of the neck, which we'll get to in a minute. And so that's where our notes stop. The other end we'll get to down at the bottom in a moment. So obviously we've got the headstock, the tuners, the nut. And the other thing that the nut does, and you can see, and if you look at your own guitar, is it keeps those strings spaced out appropriately so that everything is uniform across the instrument. So moving on down, it's said before, this goes along with the human body. So next thing from your head is your neck, which is here. Various lengths, various widths. Radius is what they're talking about back here. You might read that on some forums that they talk about neck radius. How thick is that neck? Exactly how is that shaped? They're all different, and depending on what you're comfortable with and the way that you are physically shaped, one radius might be better for you than the other. But I'm going to expect if we're just getting started, that's not going to be a huge thing that we're going to be worrying about. So on that neck is the front part, which is the fretboard. The fretboard contains, and I'll bend the string down here a little bit so you can see it, contains these little metal strips, which are frets. What do frets do? Well, we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get into the mechanics, but just like the nut down here acts as a stopping point, the frets act as a stopping point, essentially lengthening or shortening the string. But we'll get to more on that in a moment. So moving on down, we get to the body, beer barrel, just like me. All right, the body of the guitar on the acoustic has a function, couple of functions actually. One, you can see how it's shaped here and here, and that is so that when we're playing it, our arm can hang freely, but then also the bottom part here can rest on our thigh. Okay. The other thing that the body has, which is incredibly important, and it's across the electrics and the acoustics, is this part down here. So we had said the nut acts as one end of the string. The other end is down here, and this is the bridge. Your bridge may look different than mine. You may have pins in here if it's an acoustic that hold the strings in place. You may, and we'll look at electrics, you may have there's several different types of bridges, and even some that use more of a cello style bridge as well. The other thing that's here on the acoustic that the others don't necessarily have is the sound hole. And then you can see how thick the body is too. Because being an acoustic, the idea here is that the sound gets pushed out of the instrument so that the listeners can hear it. When we talk about electrics, there isn't as much acoustic energy coming out because it doesn't have that big body style for that sound to kind of resonate in and then push out. So a little bit oversimplistic explanation, but it'll make sense as we get going. So instead of electric guitar, I'm going to grab the electric bass, which you've seen in some of the introduction videos that I've done. All of the parts are the same. We got the tuners down here, headstock, right? It's got a nut down here. It's got frets, fingerboard, right? All of this stuff is the same body style with the little hook in it so that it rests on your thigh, right? And then gets your pecs out of the way when you're here, right? It's got a bridge, but something that's wickedly different that you see. Obviously, if I play this right now, it's not plugged in. You can't hear too much, right? Because it doesn't have that chambered body to propel the acoustic energy of the sound out of the instrument, right? So what it has instead are these magnetic pickups. And my electric guitar friend over here has the exact same thing. If you're playing on electric, you probably have a pickup. And you'll hear nothing out of those pickups unless you plug it in. Oops, sorry. On this one, it's here. Okay, most of the time, you're going to find it's going to be down there in the body. But yeah, on this P-style bass, it is on the front. Because the other thing, since this has electronic pickups in it, these are passive, so they don't require any power. However, some pickup systems require a 9-volt battery or 2 9-volt batteries, depending on what you got. And then aside from your on-off volume, you'll have various tone controls as well. I've got a couple of basses that have 6 different knobs here, and they all do something different. So whatever you're working with, take some time, plug it in, explore. If you don't have an amplifier for that electric instrument, it's okay. You can still get started learning the mechanics of the instrument, and then once things calm down here, hopefully you get out to the store and get yourself an amp. Thank you for joining me today. Next time we're going to talk about proper posture and technique to get you on your way to playing.